let's talk about these injuries. And let's bracket this conversation with a couple things. It is very natural, and perhaps I didn't address this very well or constructively at the halftime show that we did. Anger is a very healthy emotion, and it's natural. And so, whenever you lose somebody like Debo, that means so much to all of us, right? As fans, it just does. He's the heart and soul of this team. He's the one that leads the team out. Explosive, scored in the first touchdown. Just does everything. He's great. I get it. Anger is real, and you should experience that. I probably went off a little bit too much on the blame thing and all that stuff. Whatever. I don't care. Did you notice the Bucks all the way to the end of the game never pulled their starters? Tom Brady, Mike Evans, their entire starting offensive line was out there to the last play of the game. And y'all want to sit there and yell at Kyle? I don't understand. Now, are injuries? Can you navigate away from some of them? Should you run players up the middle all the time? I get those concerns. Those are healthy conversations. Somebody showed me the Jerry Rice posted on his Instagram about how you got to stop running skill players up the middle. Well, if that's the case, you got to take away CMC's touchdowns. If that's the case, you've got to give a lot of that stuff back. Debo had 4 rushes. He had 4 carries. It's not like he was just like putting them in the I formation and stuff, but you got to break tendencies. If you just use Debo on the outside all the freaking time, well, guess what? Teams know that. You scout that and you say, hey, anytime 19's in the backfield, only go outside. Debo wasn't running up the middle like repeat. He only had 4 carries. 4. Football's a real sport. Injuries happen. It sucks. It was the second quarter. It was the second quarter. Um, People forget that 28-3 game. And again, just some of the things that, you can't have it both ways. You can't be upset with Kyle for not closing games with a killer mentality and all that stuff, and then be upset whenever he runs his starters in the second quarter. It was the second quarter. Like, I don't understand. It's just an injury, and it sucks. Could that injury have happened if he was running outside? Maybe a little bit less so, but you can't just run the same damn play all the time. Do you know what Kyle Shanahan does where his dad, where the Kubiaks all got their like bread and butter? The outside zone. The 49ers run the ball outside more than almost any team out there. You've got to have some inside runs. At some point, you got to. You cannot just go outside. That's whenever we were kids, right? That's all like parents just go outside, stay outside. You can't do that. And especially whenever the opposing team, the Buccaneers, best player left in an injury the very first quarter, Vita Vea. If you listen to our pregame show, I said there was 2 matchups that concerned me: Vita Vea and Tom Brady. That was it. Well, Tom Brady was awful, and Vita Vea left. So you try to exploit a matchup where you think you have an advantage, and that's running up the middle. Oh, by the way, if you look at the freaking game, guess what? You ran the ball 36 times for 209 yards. It worked. It worked. What the 49ers game plan was dominated every single facet of this game nonstop. You were up 7-0. I mean, good gosh, it's 35-7. The injury does put a cloud over the conversation, the Debo injury. Now, couple things. I did talk about how it didn't seem like there was a break. There was no air cast put out there or whatever else. We got news. I don't know. I've seen this filtering through the internet. Okay. And Bobo, I agree with you. Debo's injury was a result of Debo giving 150% in every single play. And also, oh, real quick, hold on. Because there was a play earlier where they ran a reverse to Debo and they played it perfectly outside. And instead of going in bounds, he stayed in bounds and took a bad hit. Like, he got hit and kind of folded weird. And I was like, ooh, is he okay? Is he okay? And I was like, man, I wish Debo would just kind of go outside, go out of bounds on that play. And then sure enough, guess what happens? Next time he gets the ball up the middle, it happened on the outside. And when we do our Patreon breakdown, I'm going to show you, like, the film tells the story. The narratives that are created by pessimistic, angry, toxic people, sadly that fills up our feeds and whatever else, and that kind of finds its way inside your noggin. spend time with the film and allow that to dictate your opinions and your narratives. Trust me, it's going to make a big difference. It's going to make a huge difference because you're going to see things differently and it's what's actually happening. It's not people, whatever. It's just what it is. Chris, thank you, my friend, for the gift of the super chat. Love it. He says, with the win Thursday, do you think we see Kinlaw before the playoffs? I'd like to see him against the Cards play 8 to 12 snaps. You know, man, if Kinlaw comes back, that would be so significant. Now, I'll dive into the injuries and kind of all that kind of conversation. But yeah, Kinlaw can work out. He just can't practice with the team. We don't know how he is. They don't have to give any updates. They've been teasing it. They've been teasing it. They've been teasing it. But with somebody like Kinlaw, he had a couple really good games and then the knee came back. He had a couple good games and the knee came back, right? So I don't know if you do. I think you've seen enough. He's not a rookie. You just shelve that dude until the playoffs and you try to get what you can out of him. Like you just come out for, like you said, 8 to 12 plays. I, that wild card round of the playoffs, that's where I would do it. But I'm not going to be shocked if he plays. I think he does. They try, and they literally just say, "Hey, you're going to go out there. You're going to play 10 plays. When they come out in heavy personnel, stuff the middle of the field. That's all we need you to do." What's up, Sin? One of my favorite humans ever. She says, Tom Pelissero just put out Debo injured ankle, not knee. That's huge. I saw him doing the ACL check, and I always watch, like, from a coaching perspective, way back whenever I was on the field, whether I was out there on the injury or was an opposing player, you can almost always tell because they'll do the ACL check with the knee, and you'll see the trainer, like, or you'll see him like, okay, yeah, yeah. And I couldn't see it. They cut away when they were started to show it on the broadcast field. But if it's an ankle, I said this in our halftime show. Best news, high ankle sprain. Worst case, ACL. And so the fact that it's not a knee, we've already eliminated worst case. Now, high ankle sprains usually 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the severity. What a high ankle sprain means is ligaments. That's why you always see them grabbing towards their knee or the top part of their leg, because again, there's not bone issues or bone damage. It's the ligaments that go all the way up in between your tibia and fibia that you feel it really, really high. So that's the high ankle sprains. The ligaments get overstretched because your foot just bent too far, as what we saw with Debo. So that's great news. That's great news. Nick, thank you, my friend. He says, I almost cried seeing Purdy's dad crying. Man, that was such a cool scene. And, it's interesting. Nick goes on to say he must be so proud. Then almost cried when Debo went down. Roller coaster of emotions, but we won. And that's why we like sports, right? It appeals to all of the human emotions in such a short span of time. And you get this sense of community and raw and all that stuff, right? It's awesome. I saw put out earlier that the Purdy family, this was the game they were coming to. They planned that earlier in the year before they knew anything because they wanted to see Tom Brady. It just so happened to coincide to be their son's first start. Um, how awesome is that? How awesome is that? So back to this idea of the Debo injury. If it's 6 to 8 weeks, he can come back. He can come back. You probably got to make the divisional round. That'd probably be the earliest. But yeah, we've been doing a lot of that, right? Like, oh, they could come back. They could come back. Now, a couple other injuries that are out there. Kevin Givens, that one hurt pretty bad. He was carted to the locker room as well. The stacking of injuries at the defensive tackle position hurts bad. Good thing we got Armstead back, but then you lose Ridgeway. Kevin Givens, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Kinlaw comes back for the playoffs, but not before that. Ty McGill played good again. Kerry Hyder comes back, and he got hurt. He walked off gingerly as well. So we're going to be in the defensive tackle market. Now, again, Hines, maybe, big stretch, Kalia Davis. The 49ers drafted defensive tackle Kalia Davis in the 6th round, but he was a medical redshirt year, right? So he was on the the NFI, non-football injury list. He got hurt at the combine. We drafted him knowing that because we had 4 defensive tackles on 1-year deals expiring. So he was a redshirt player for next year. He's been working out. They don't have to share any information on him, but I said when we drafted him, he could be a possibility December on. Well, we're in December, baby. So we'll have to see there. A couple other injuries. Jimmy Ward was shaken up, came back in. Dante Johnson, that one looked kind of rough on special teams, which I hate. I love that he got called up for this game, but he took Tarvarius Moore's spot on special teams because Moore was out. We'll see what happens there. And Demo, he got hurt with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it sucks because he's been playing really well. He has earned a lot. So if he's out, Samuel Womack will be called up there. Ambry Thomas, we do have some depth there, but not a lot.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.